We are a nation in grief. The past 2 weeks have been devastating to over 18 families in the United States. Horrific and terrifying events less than a week apart have left not only those families, but our nation in a state of shock. This past year has already left millions of us in grief over the 550,000 some odd dead from COVID-19, and now this. I'm at a loss for words, and for those of you who know me, that says a lot. These deaths, the majority of them have been totally unnecessary, but I won't get into the politics of that. But certainly they are real and devastating. And I guess it gets my conspiratorial side going. Are Americans being targeted? Is there a war going on against Americans? One that has been quietly being agitated from the outside by outside agitators? I'm Melody Brooke. I'm an author, a mom, a grandmom, as well as an actor and a film producer. When these tragedies occur, they stir up a primal grief for me. I don't know these people, but I know the horror of sudden unexpected death and the pain and overwhelming sense of loss and the helplessness that goes with it. Grief is carried in our bodies as this burden that we can't escape. It can wear us down and leave us bitter, angry, doubting both God and the purpose of our being alive. My feelings as I reflect on these events? Grief first, then anger. Anger that we live in a nation where this is just part of our freedoms. Openly carrying a semi-automatic weapon into any grocery store, a department store, or a busy street is now legal in many states. Sure, defend your right to carry that openly, like you live in the Wild West, where the most shots you could possibly gotten off is 12, and you'd had to be a pretty darn good shot and fast before someone else would have shot you down. But today, most of us don't open carry. We're not in the Wild West, so we are unprepared for the guy with the automatic weapon. And truth be told, even if we now had that gun in our hand, we would likely be shot by an automatic weapon before we could get a round off, and we'd have to be a pretty good shot too. And don't get me wrong, I am in favor of our Second Amendment right. I believe in our right to own weapons. I do not believe it's justifiable to openly carry automatic weapons in public. I do not believe ordinary citizens have any reason to be carrying these weapons or stockpiling these weapons. The horror of Las Vegas happened because that guy had been stockpiling both weapons and ammunition. Living in the U.S. is starting to feel like living in a war zone. You never know when that blast is going to occur. It could be while you're taking your grandmother to pick up her prescriptions, or your child to get cookies for her scout meeting, or while they're attending school or a concert. While addressing the issue of our safety as Americans, it cannot be overstated how dangerous it is simply to be a woman in this country. Generally speaking, women are more often murdered by men, and by men with whom they are intimately connected. A whopping 82% of women murders are committed by men who have had their boyfriends or husbands shoot them. Strangers are generally a lot less likely to kill a woman than their own romantic partners. Yep. Though, of course, that could be changing with what occurred in Atlanta last week. That horrific murderous rampage was an attempt at genocide against Asians, but it was also targeted specifically at women whom the murderer blamed for his own sexual impulses. This is common in our culture and many others, for men to blame women for their own sexual desires. You see, women, we are told to cover up, but of course we have to still look attractive, to get ahead. And you have to please men. But of course, if we expose too much skin, then, men can't be held responsible for their own behaviors. To the extreme that this becomes burqas, or women having to be held captive and to be covered up in order not to spark a sexual desire in some random man who may decide they cannot hold back their impulses and rape or kill you for it. Of course, if they do, Well then, that's your fault for being such a temptress. Violence against women is generally driven by men's sexual desire, which the perpetrators view as being the fault of the woman and not their own responsibility. Teaching young men to be responsible for their own sexual impulses and to see themselves as fully capable of managing these strong impulses not only reduces violence against women, it improves these young men's potential for happy, satisfying romantic relationships. But of course, we've also seen an increase in violence toward people of color. The Atlanta attack was centered on Asian women, so it was a devastating combination of racism and femicide. In general, since 2016, violence against people of color has increased. In 2020 alone, the incidence of hate crimes against people of color went up in this country by 150%. Add that to easy access to automatic weapons, and it becomes a war on Americans. This most recent attack, the shooter turns out to have been of Middle Eastern descent, and that goes against the recent trend of white male shooters. But in my way of thinking, the tendency to feel as if you're under attack from whites could possibly fuel these reactive attacks as well. And again, having easy access to these deadly weapons and the ability to open carry sets us up to be living in a world where most of us, none of us, are really safe. Now, I'm really not trying to make a political point. I'm just trying to make a humanitarian appeal to sensibility and humanitarianism and push us toward love and acceptance of all other human beings, male, female, white, or of any color, race, religion, or sexual identity. Violence serves no one, especially in a democratic nation where we strive to lift each other up. Do your part in recognizing hatred in any form it shows up in your life and in those around you and in those you influence. Teach your children to accept each other, to accept each of us for the human beings that we are. That's what I try to do every day of my life. And I'm really sad to see what our nation has become. You know, when I was a teenager, I had all these hopes for what the future would bring. I was a flower child, and I believed the message of love and acceptance that we were trying so hard to convey to everyone, to see the value in each human being, and to nurture and develop and encourage each of us to be more loving, open, peaceful, accepting human beings. That's not where we've come to. And I'm extremely disappointed to have brought this world, this nation, to be a part of the generation that brought this to my grandchildren. More than half of whom are people of color. And this is not the world that I wanted them to inherit, and yet here we are. So I'm darn well going to stay alive for a lot longer, and I'm going to keep my voice going, because this is not the world I want them to live in. I'm Melody Brooke. You can find out more about me at melodybrooke.com. I have some books available on Amazon. Check them out. And thanks for listening. I try to be here every Tuesday at 4 p.m. if technology works with me. And I will see you next Tuesday at 4. Thanks for watching. I'm going to jump in a little bit here and see if there's anybody that has any comments or anybody wants to ask any questions. So let me walk up here and see who might be with us. Okay, I'm not seeing any communication from anyone. So just leave comments, thoughts, and I'd love to hear your reactions to what I just said today, because I think it's important. Thanks. See you next week.